Hello students, welcome to the part 2 of chapter 2 lecture utility analysis. We in the last lesson, class we studied about the 10 features of utility. I think you have studied the 10 features and you maybe understand better the 10 features of utility. Now we are going to study about the next part 2, that is the types of utility. In the screen you can see there are 6 types of utility. There is no explanation in the screen. You can see 6 pictures given. So there are 6 types of utility: form utility, second place utility, service utility, knowledge utility, possession utility, time utility. These are the 6 types of utility that you have to study. In the first, form utility, you can see the pictures of some furnitures. The name it is form utility. The furniture are made from wood and it has changed the form. When the form change, we use the things. So that is form utility. When utility is created due to the change in the shape or structure of an existing material, it is called form utility. So what is form utility? When the utility is created due to the change in the shape or structure of a material. Example, furniture made from wood, then toys made from clay, pot, and different things around us. Everything what we utilize each day, it is due to the change in their form. In the original form we don't use, but if it is changed, then if it has the change and it is useful for us, we use. So the first type of utility, form utility, is the utility which we get due to the change in the form of the materials. Second, it is place utility. You can see what places changes. You can see some vegetables, or you can see some of the places given in the picture. You can see the clouds. So when the utility of a commodity increases due to the change in its place, it is called place utility. For example, woolen clothes have more utility at cold place than warm place, or transport creates place utility. So the things, for example, you can see the vegetables in the market. It is in the when we bring the vegetables to our home, it change into some other substances, and then we are using because of the change of the thing. Again, in the features we studied about the place utility. When the sand from the seashore, it has changed its place to the building site, then it was useful for the as a building material. So place utility means when utility of a commodity increases due to a change in place. Next, it is service utility. You can see the picture. In the picture, a nurse standing there. So service utility arises when the person's service are rendered to various professions. Example, service of doctor, teacher, nurses, and many other around us. We know that without many of the persons help us, we can't get successful. So in the proper time, when we get the service of these people, then it is useful for us. If not, it will become waste. So service utility. Fourth, it is knowledge utility. Now what is knowledge utility? You can see in the picture in the slide, the grandmother saying a story or teaching a child. Why? Because she is having the knowledge of that book, so she is explaining to that. So when we say that what is knowledge utility, when the consumer acquire knowledge about the particular product, it is known as knowledge utility. For example, utility of mobile phone or computer increases when a person know about it. If you get a mobile and you don't know to use it, then you don't have the knowledge to use it, then it is useless for you. So knowledge utility means when a particular thing which particular knowledge you are having, and you are able to use a particular thing, then we can say that that knowledge is becoming useful for the use of the particular product or particular thing. So in utility chapter, these all things are very important because we have to understand the use of different things. Fifth one is possession utility. Possession utility means, what is possession utility? We can see that due to the means particular things, when we possess the particular things, we get the utility of that thing. Possession utility arises when the ownership of goods is transferred from one person to another. For example, transfer of goods from the seller to the buyers. When we explain in one and another form, we can see, if I am having a vehicle, so I can reach to the particular place very fast. If my neighbor has it, can I use it whenever I want to use? No. The thing which I possess, I can use it very easily. So it's explained as the possession utility. So what is possession utility? When the utility arises, or when a person use the thing in a proper way, when he possesses it, then we can say possession utility. Next is time utility. When the utility of a commodity increases with a change in its time utilization. When the utility of a commodity increases, when the change in the utilization, it is called time utility. For example, a student has more utility for the book during exam, for the studies, then you can see that in the slide picture is given of the blood bottle, which the patient is very needed. If the blood is supplied in the proper time to the patient who needs it, it will save the life of the particular person. So in time, we must get arranged for that particular thing. The help should be arranged. The time matters a lot. So then only we can use. So there are many other things which around us which arises utility due to this all form. Now the types of utility we studied about 6. How many types of utility are there? Form utility, place utility, service utility, knowledge utility, possession utility, and time utility. So these are the 6 types of utility. Now while studying the utility, there are certain concepts which we have to study, that concept of utility. In the next slide, we can see the concept of utility. Why we are studying the concepts of utility? In the first part, we studied about the definition of utility and features of utility. Then we followed by it is the different types of utility. Now, concept of utility means how can we calculate this in a particular way, the utility, how can we arrange it, and how can we understand it more properly, a particular commodity, how much useful is to us. So to study that, we are going to study about the concept of utility. When we study the concept of utility, we have to concentrate in 2 utilities mainly, that is total utility and marginal utility. What is this total utility? In economics, we define it as the utility derived by the consumer from the units of a commodity consumed, the aggregate utility. Utility refers to the aggregate of utility. Aggregate means the total of all the utility derived by a consumer by using a particular product or particular things we consume, then we say that is total utility. It is an aggregate of units from all successive units of commodity consumed. Now, we consume many things. If you take a glass of water, while we are taking the first glass of water, what utility we got? Then second glass, what utility we increase? Third glass, fourth glass, fifth glass, and continuation of that. So the utility derived from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 altogether, when the summation comes, we say that is a total utility. The person the utility derived from the using the 5 glass of water, that is going to the total utility of the particular consumption. So you have to go through the definition thoroughly. Total utility refers, very simple it is. Total utility refers to aggregates of utility derived by the consumer from all the units of commodity consumed. It is the aggregate utility derived from the successive unit. Now, marginal utility. Marginal means additional. Marginal utility refers to the additional utility derived by a consumer from an addition unit of commodity consumed. In other words, it is addition made by the last unit of the commodity consumed. Now, we studied about the total utility. Now, total utility means the sum total of the utility we consume. So, the marginal utility means first means if we have consumed 1 glass of water, we got 5 utilities. The second, we got 10 utilities. So, we can calculate the marginal utility by subtracting 5 from 10. That is 5 we got it. So, in this way, the marginal, the addition, third, if we get 15, we have to minus 10 from this 15 and again we can get 5. In this way, the additional, whatever the addition to the total is said to be marginal, that is the addition. In the slide you can see there is a formula explaining the relationship between the total utility and marginal utility. Total utility is equal to the summation of mu. Mu means what it is? Marginal utility. So, total utility is equal to marginal utility 1 plus marginal utility of second, marginal utility of third, and according to the infinite means the last unit, the marginal utility of n. Thus, total utility is the summation of all marginal utility, and marginal utility of n is equal to total utility n minus total utility of n minus 1. So, it is given in the slide very nicely, and you have to go through it in the lesson also it is given. Now, you can see the relationship between the total utility and marginal utility. A chart is given. What is the relation between these two? In the chart, marginal utility derived from various units of commodity and its total utility are interrelated. This can be easily followed in the form by hypothetical example given in the schedule. Utility schedule is given. Unit of X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 it is given. In textbook page number 11 it is given properly. You can just see the same schedule I have given in the slide also. It explains the relation. Now you can see that when the X unit of X, 1 unit of X, what is the total utility derived from it? It is 10. In the same way, the marginal utility also is 10. Unit of X, 2 unit of X, what is the total utility he got? It is 18. After consuming the 2 units of X, the total utility is 18 and the marginal utility is 8. How the number 8 is derived? You can see that 18 minus 10 is equal to 8 because addition to the total. First it was 10 and addition what increase it was? 8. So the marginal utility is 8. When the unit of 3 units of X, 3 units of X, unit of X, commodity X, the total utility derived is 24 and the marginal utility is 6. 18 plus 6 is equal to 24 or 24 minus 18 is equal to 6. So the marginal utility which he got for the consuming the third unit of X, he got 6 extra. Before it was 18 and 6. So 6 is the marginal utility and 24 is the total utility. In the chart schedule, likewise you can see 30, 30, 28. So in the marginal utility, first 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0, minus 2. You can see that total utility is increasing. 10, 18, 24, 28, 30, 30 it becomes stable and again it decreased to 28. You can see there is an increase in total utility, and in marginal utility there is a diminish. 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. When the 6 units of X is consumed, the marginal utility is 0, because in the 5 unit of X and 6 unit of X commodity, the total utility was same. So in the 6 unit we got 0, and in 7th it is 28. When we minus 30 from 28, we get minus 2. Thus the marginal utility goes to negative. According to the schedule, when we draw the diagram, you can see in the slide, you can see the figure given. In the x-axis, the total utility and marginal utility is given. In the y-axis, the units of commodity X is given. You can see that total utility curve, it is going upward directions. Upward direction means first it was, what the number it was, 10. Then it increased to 18, 24, 28, 30, 30. In the 5 units, you can see that 30 and 30 it becomes stable, and it is to be explains the point of stability. It is a stable point where the total utility and marginal utility varies. First unit of X consumed are same. Both the total utility and marginal utility, in the beginning it was same, it was 10. The first point you have to note in the diagram is the total utility and the marginal utility of the very first unit of X consumed is same. As the consumer consumes further unit of X, the total utility increases in a diminishing rate and the marginal utility goes on diminishing. You can see the upward climbing and the downward falling of the marginal utility curve. At a particular stage, the total utility reaches its maximum and remains constant, where our marginal utility becomes 0. So when total utility is 30, the marginal utility is 0, stable. First it was 30, it was 2, then again in the 6th unit it became 30 and the marginal utility is 0. So the marginal utility curves touch the x-axis. Okay, this called the point of satiety. TU highest, MU is equal to 0. You have to just go. Total utility curve is equal to marginal utility curve. When that total utility is in the highest point, you can see the marginal utilities become 0. And when the total utility curve was falling means it after 30 it fall to 28. When it become 28, the marginal utility become negative. So you can see a shade given there. It depicts that at this point any addition utility of consumed further results in the decline in the total utility, while marginal utility becomes negative. After reaching the point of satiety, a rational consumer should stop the consumption, since the maximum limit of satisfaction is reached and there is no addition to the total utility by any further increase in the stock of a commodity. Now, a rational consumer means a consumer who thinks that how he have to consume particular product and how he have to use the particular product should stop the consumption when he reaches the total utility maximum. Don't go use further. Now, for example, we can take when first glass of water, what is the utility? 10. Second glass 18. Third glass 24. Fourth glass 28. Fifth glass 30. Sixth glass 30. Stop there. If you again you will waste the thing. So understanding the utility, and we have to stop at a particular point as we have to get the maximum satisfaction and without wasting a particular commodity. If we understand this, then the consumption will become proper. So each person should understand that when we have to stop, at which point you have to stop during this consumption. So in today's means chapter, we have part 2, we have studied about the three things. That first one, we studied about the types of utility, 6 types of utility we studied. Then we studied about the concept of utility, total utility and marginal utility, the definition, then the relation between that. You can see a schedule given here, and that according to the schedule, a diagram, a figure, a graph is drawn, and in that graph 2 curves are there, total utility curve and marginal utility curve. When marginal utility is declining, diminishing, the total utility is increasing in a diminishing rate, not in a very steep position. Its slope is just a curve showing that it increases in a diminishing way, not in a way. So any commodity which we use is having this type of scenario, that we have to use in a proper way. So just this in this chapter, the utility chapter, each topics which are given in the slide, it is important. I have very briefly, in a short manner, I have given the slides in the lesson presentation. So go through that and just draw this, write this, and when I interact with you in after completing the lesson, I will clear your doubts. But whatever given, the features, the definitions, that you go through that and study in a proper way, it will be very easy for you. In the next chapter, next part, we will discuss about the law of diminishing marginal utility we will study, and accordingly we will go through the lesson. So just go see the diagram, draw it. The coming part is the connection with this part only, because you can see in the diagram the curve, it is given, 2 curves are given. You have to go through this and you have to pay attention in this, that there are 2 curves. You can see in the diagram, there are 2 curves. Which are the 2 curves? The total utility curve and the marginal utility curve. Now if you take this separately also, now see that see the total utility, you keep it aside and take the units of x 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and take the marginal utility, that is 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0, minus 2. So take these 2 parts, then you will see that the consuming the entire thing, the more and more use of the one thing, what will happen? The utility diminishes. We know this. Anything which is more, the utility diminishes. You maybe have heard about in the house, when we stay with, means when we use many things, mummy will say, beta, no, you don't take this much of things, it will be go waste. Because everybody knows that, even from the very small childhood. Now when we bring it to the economics, it's become a theory and we have to prove it. This assumes that when we use more and more units of one commodity, the utility diminishes. So next part of the lesson, we will study elaborately the continuation part only. The marginal utility means the law of diminishing marginal utility. In that, there are same thing. If you have studied the relationship between total utility and marginal utility, you can be very easily study the coming part. So go through that and study the table properly and draw the figure also in the way. So students, today we studied about the types of utility. There are 6 types. Then we studied about the concept of utility. There are 2 concepts, which are the 2 concepts of utility: total utility and marginal utility. Now after studying in that, what we studied about the definition, how we are calculating it, that we studied. Now in the last slide, we studied about the relationship between total utility and marginal utility. So there is a schedule, the schedule explanation you derive, you read the textbook also, and in the coming part I will clear you If you study this, the next part will become very easy for you. So thank you, students. Go through the lesson.